Hey, what's going on, my friend? This video is for people who are struggling currently with something called imposter syndrome. If you're watching this video, you probably already know what imposter syndrome is. It's basically where you don't feel like you're ready to do something you want to do or feel inspired to do. Maybe you even feel you're meant to do something. You know you have this calling that you're not taking action on because you don't feel like you're ready. You don't think you know enough. You don't think you're experienced enough. You don't think you are yet enough. But maybe in the future, maybe after this course, this certification program, maybe after you have some more time and space in your life, maybe after you get a handle on some of your bad habits and your imperfections. So what I've learned through my own journey with this, and I've dealt with this a lot, I've also coached a lot of people through this as well. I've been coaching entrepreneurs for the past 4 years, and pretty much every single one of them has a bad case of this thing that people call imposter syndrome. And I've learned some ways of overcoming it. And I'm going to share them with you in this video. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to burst your bubble a little bit and tell you the truth about this so-called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, on a fundamental level, has no basis in reality whatsoever. I've met people, and maybe you know people, who know a lot. I've met people with loads of certifications, loads of experience, loads of wisdom, loads of talent that still feel like they're not enough. I've also met people who don't know anything, who know very little, will say, that because they just go for it, they end up making a splash in the world anyways. So it doesn't even make any sense, this idea that we're not ready. There's actually a funny documentary called Kumare, and it's about this Indian gentleman. He's like a college kid living in New York. He grew up in New York, but he's Indian. And this guy can't stand religion. In particular, he really despises the idea of a guru. He thinks it's ridiculous. He thinks it's disempowering to people. So kind of as a joke, he decides one day to become a guru. He grew, by basically what he did is he grew his beard out, he grew his hair out, he bought a robe and went around and simply declared, "I am Guru Kumare." And believe it or not, in a very short span of time, he amassed quite a few followers. And what he found, to his own amazement, is that he found himself actually helping these people. He found that because these people trusted in him and believed that he could help them, that he found that the words, the wisdom would just sometimes flow out of his mouth. And he wouldn't even know where it quite came from, but he couldn't deny the help it was offering these people. In fact, at the end of the documentary, these poor people were just devastated once he finally came out and said he was just making it up, because they felt connected with him and they learned a lot from him. Another related aspect of imposter syndrome is perfectionism. You probably know that word as well. Basically, the root of all of this is a standard that we set only for ourselves, not other people, not anybody else, not our friends, family, coworkers, but us. We hold ourselves to this very, very high, impossible to attain standard. We must be perfect, which we never will be, obviously, and then we'll do our thing. We'll get out there and do it. And perfection is always right around the corner. It's when you finally get your diploma for this particular certification. Right? Wrong. No, it doesn't work that way. It's the standard we set for ourselves that is unrealistic. We expect that we are to be masterful prior to having any actual practice with this thing we want to do. Reminds me of my daughter Maya when she was a little kid. She's 14 now, but when she was like 4 or 5 years old, at the time we were living in the KOA, like travel, like what do you call it, RV park basically in San Diego, California, and living in an RV. And she got these new rollerblades for Christmas, and she was like hell-bent on learning to rollerblade, but she had no experience at all. And I laced her up, or buckled them up actually, and I kind of held her hand, and we went out of the little driveway we had, and wham! Head over, feet overhead, totally wiped out, started crying, scraped her elbow, and I was like, oh man, you okay, buddy? Yes. She said, let's do it again. Okay. Sure enough, she'd go a couple of feet and she'd fall. Another couple of feet and she'd fall. After 4 or 5 falls, I'm like, Maya, do you wanna call it a day? You're getting a little bit too bloody for my liking as your father. I can't want you to do this to yourself. And she looked at me with these eyes of like determination. She said, let's keep going. Okay, Maya, we're gonna bandage you up a little bit and then we'll keep going. Sure enough, she did this probably 50 more times, 30 to 50 more times, but eventually this kid taught herself to rollerblade. Now imagine if she got these amazing rollerblades and didn't try to rollerblade, didn't try it because she wasn't ready. How could you get ready? How could anyone get ready having not rollerbladed for the inevitable learning curve that my daughter Maya experienced? The thing we think we need is available to us right now. And the thing we actually need is to fall. It's to make a mistake. It's to fail. It's to give ourselves the same freedom that I gave my daughter to learn. Another thing about imposter syndrome is that it offers a clue to the real reason you're feeling apprehensive to do this thing. Imposter syndrome, in my opinion anyways, you can kind of gather. I don't buy into it. But I do, however, think it's kind of a clue, kind of a surface level manifestation of something deeper, a core wound, a core belief that most human beings, if they're honest with themselves, carry. And that is the belief that I am not enough. I am not worthy. So we try to cover up this feeling with more accolades, more time, more experience, whatever it is. We try to cover it up. But wherever we go, whatever we do, we're bringing ourselves to the table, and it never does the job. It never covers it up. I remember back in 2011, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos after I had a spiritual awakening, and I was getting so much out of it. There was a few people I would watch every day, and I felt like they were my best friends. I felt so connected with them, and I learned more from these like YouTubers, these regular people basically, than I had from any book I read, any psychologist or therapist I had, anybody. And I was so impressed with just the regular people on YouTube, their ability to help me in a very like candid, non-pretentious, just sharing of their life sort of way, that I felt inspired. I had a knowing, I had a sense that it is my destiny to get onto YouTube. And I tried. In fact, as I was playing around with this notion, I was getting a lot of cool ideas, and I had my whole notebook filled up with all these different ideas. And there would be times I'd be going about my day, and I would feel this like creative charge just sort of jolt into my body with this knowingness that I gotta share this. This would be perfect for a YouTube video. And then I got myself a nice camera, and I said, okay, it's go time. And I turned that camera on, and the second that camera turned on, like a deer in headlights, I froze. I choked. All that inspiration, all that awareness of my destiny, my power, gone, vanished. All that was left was me and my contractions and my blank mind and my dead end stares and terror and fear. And I was mad at myself. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And I would just freeze up. Every time it happened, I tried everything. I tried filming at different times of the day. I tried everything you can imagine, but no matter, regardless, whatever happened is once that camera flicked on, all of my insecurities, all of my self-doubt, all of my unresolved childhood issues up at the surface, taking me over, making it impossible to move forward. And eventually, I broke my camera out of just frustration with myself. And it was about 6 years later, I shelved the whole idea. I gave up. And 6 years later, I finally felt once again inspired to get onto YouTube. And by that time, I had learned a lot. I had learned a lot. I had grown a lot. I had done a lot. I was a completely different person. But the second that camera turned on, 6 years later, what do you think happened? Do you think Victor finally learned enough to finally bypass those feelings of unworthiness? No, they were right there. Just as potent, just as stifling as I could ever remember. But what I learned is that we have a choice. Like my daughter Maya had the choice to either give up and wait for more favorable weather, or to keep frickin' going. And with determination, not give up on ourselves, not give up on our dream, not give up on our destiny. And it took me a long while, many crappy videos, hundreds of crappy videos before I finally was able to relax and have kind of a clear, I would say, like exchange of energy with my inspiration, unblocked into the camera. And in that span of struggle, running into myself, running into my shadow, that is where I really learned. That is when I really learned how to tap into the deeper aspects of myself. If it would have been easy from the get-go, I wouldn't be as I am today. There is so much we cultivate from this struggle we hope to avoid. And a huge blessing is slowly but surely you get to start to redefine yourself. Because eventually you can't deny that I am doing something. I have gotten better at rollerblading, guitar, writing, speaking, sewing, whatever it is you want to do. You get your repetitions in. There are good days and bad days, lots of bad days, lots of rainy days. But if you don't let that stop you, there's another book I read actually, it's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And the book, the whole premise is basically abandoning the whole sort of fairy tale notion of a life purpose where we just have this thing we can naturally do so easily. It says that's nonsense. Get out there and practice. Practice more than anybody else. I'm pretty decent at filming YouTube videos because I filmed probably 2,000 of them. You'll be good at whatever you do if you allow yourself to get out there and practice. And the really interesting thing is, before I go, is that even in the beginning stages, if you just allow yourself to be imperfect, allow yourself to fall once in a while and just try your best, you will find there are other aspects of yourself that will come through when you give yourself the chance. So eventually, as I mentioned, I got onto YouTube and it worked. I started getting followers and so forth. But eventually I got to a point where I wasn't making any money and I had no jobs and I had a family to support. And I had this download to raise my hand and say, hey folks, I'm a coach. I can coach you through your spiritual awakening, was my claim. Who am I? Who is anybody to coach someone through a spiritual awakening? I don't know, but I felt called to do it. I had this feeling, I feel like I can do it. I feel like I'm being told from within to do it. But my mind had all this imposter syndrome nonsense going on. But luckily I learned years back not to listen to that. So I did what I had to do. I announced it. I made a little application. I got people on a phone call and I signed up about 30 clients at that point. And I'll never forget how I felt going into my first call, because now it was time to deliver. Now it was time to actually be an awakening coach that I've never done before. And here's exactly what happened, and it blew my mind, and it's going to help you, I believe, if you listen to this. I got on that phone call, and what happened on that first call was what I could best describe as a psychic sense, a psychic ability that I never had before. All of a sudden, I had on that call. And it was subtle, but profound, and allowed me to do what I had to do. And all it really was a feeling I had in here, like in this area of my body. There's a feeling I get when someone is discussing something that is related to their core trauma, their core wound. I feel it in my own body. So I'm on the phone with Sally, and Sally's saying, man, my boss, he scolded me and he cut my hours, and I just feel so offended. How dare he? Sally's pissed about the boss. But I could feel in my chest that it wasn't about the boss. It wasn't about what they said. It wasn't about her hours being cut. It was about the emotions that situation triggered within her. I could feel it in my own body. And then I could as best I could, steer Sally in the direction of going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, just through questions and stuff, to where she could uncover the truth about all of that. And I would guide Sally to a breakthrough because of that one ability that I never had until that very first call. Just like Kumaro didn't even try or care to be a guru. But once he put that robe on and said, I'm a guru, something else came through him. All you need is the willingness to try your best and serve. From that, it takes care of itself. You will learn the lessons you need to learn. The repetition, obviously, you're going to get better and come more into your power. Through the courage just to try your best, you will find other aspects of yourself come to your aid. But regardless, imposter syndrome is an excuse. It's an excuse to avoid the fear, to avoid the painful feelings of that maybe you don't think you're enough. And you can disguise it with this imposter syndrome business all you want. That feeling is not going to go away, nor is that fear. But if you can just choose, like I did, to kind of take that definition and throw it out the window and make a choice to get out there and do what you really want to do in life as best you can, being supportive of yourself when you do fall, and always learning from each and every failure, just getting better, getting your reps in, and you can do it. And then from this moment on, there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping you. Imposter syndrome is nothing. And you have everything you need in this exact moment to do what you came here to do on this planet. And I hope to God this video helps you, because if you're watching this and if you've watched it until the very end, I know there's something powerful about you that you are meant to do. Anyway, my friend, let me know if you enjoyed this video. This is basically an answer to a question from my buddy Jerry. He said, hey Victor, when you started thinking about helping others, did you feel you needed a lot of personal results before people would listen? I took Jerry's question as a reason to share about imposter syndrome. So Jerry, my friend, this is the answer to your question. And if you have any questions about personal development, spirituality, anything that you've seen me talk about, feel free to drop them in the comments, and maybe I'll make a video answering your question just like I did for my buddy Jerry here. So have an amazing day, my friend. Thank you for watching. Much love.